Thank you for joining us, Albert, and for helping shape our program as a member of the World Economy Summit Advisory Board. So I suspect that most people in our audience know you best from your leadership of Pfizer through the pandemic, when you oversaw the development of the COVID vaccine in just 8 months. But you've had a 30-year career with the company. And since becoming CEO in 2019, I know you've moved to refocus it on scientific innovation. And so I want to spend part of this conversation discussing what that looks like now. But just as a starting point, our theme today is healthcare and a healthy economy. We've got a lot of finance ministers speaking at the World Economy Summit, and I suspect that not all of them think of healthcare as a core part of their economic portfolios. But do you see these two things converging? Is health becoming more of an issue for the world economy than it was?
I think health was always a very, very big part of economic growth. Economies are driven by humans, and healthy humans are more productive than people that they are not. But even more so today, because we are having a very big demographic challenge, which is from one hand very good. People are living longer, and to a very big extent because of the work that we have done, they live longer. But that also drives an aging society. And an aging society is creating issues of balancing the budget, the basic insurance premise and pension social welfare premise is based on the fact that working people are contributed for many, many years so that when they retire, they can enjoy for few years. Now, people are projected to enjoy almost 2/3 or almost equal amounts of productive life or of life outside their retirement. As much as they worked, as much as they will also retire. And the older people, clearly, they have higher issues with health. And so the world now, it's even more in need of medical innovation that will try to keep those people either outside institutions in a capacity that they can self-serve themselves, in a capacity that they will not get diseases that they are highly correlated with age, like Alzheimer's, anemia, and all of these diseases that they are extremely costly to the system, and they are also extremely time-consuming for the caregivers that probably are working people. So I used a very long, I think, answer to say that the need for medical innovation today is higher than ever, and not only because welfare reasons, but because the economies will suffer greatly unless if we will be able to develop solutions that will keep those people as self-efficient.
What more do you think policymakers should be doing to recognize that rising pressure and to address it?
I think pro-innovation, pro-patient access policies are the two most important policies that needs to be placed. Right now, we see pro-innovation policies in China that they are working extremely effectively. I think China has done a tremendous scientific progress in the last 4 years. And actually, we took a step back in the last 4 years.
By we, you mean the US?
I mean the bio-ecosystem of the US, mainly, because right now the US is clearly the dominant force on biomedical research and innovation. And no one was challenging us 4 years ago. And I think Chinese now, they are very good and they have progressed tremendously. It was policy steps that we took in the US that slow us down, and it was policy steps that took in China, and they accelerated their growth. And unless if we reverse that, we should understand that China will become the undisputable leader in biomedical innovation.
And what would the consequences be of that for the US, do you think?
It's a good question. First of all, I don't think that it is a bad thing if someone drives innovation when you see it from the patient point of view. Cancer is cancer. And I would like to find a solution no matter from where it is coming, because I have kids and I have people that I love. However, from the geopolitical point of view, imagine the new pandemic when all the solutions will come from China rather than they will come from the United States for the world. That makes a significant difference.
The new administration has cut funding for government agencies like the FDA and the NIH, and for scientific research more broadly. What do you think the impact of that is going to be on Pfizer specifically and on the ecosystem you operate in more broadly?
I want to be straightforward and also to be fair. First of all, the whole biomedical research is advanced in the US because we have created an ecosystem. The ecosystem is composed by all these big pharma companies, the giant companies that they are making billions of research in the US. Only Pfizer is investing 11 billion a year in research. Then we have an ocean of small biotechs, thousands of them, that they are generating earlier stages science, and they are feeding into the research machines of the big pharma. Then those are created typically as spin-offs from academia or some researchers that they discover something and then they try it in a spin-off in a biotech company. 99% of them will fail, but this 1% that will succeed, it is feeding the growth of the system. And then before that, you have academia, and before that, you have NIH. So this is how the system works. Now, the capital that is used, if you see how much is the capital of NIH compared to what is the capital of the pharma industry, for example, even if you don't include biotech, is day and night. It is the very, very big dollars are not the dollars of NIH. They are very helpful, very useful, and I will do everything I can to defend that they should be having the funding that they need. But just to put things in perspective, it is the private sector that gives most of the funding. Right. Now, what happened in the last 4 years, I think it is that this private funding was dramatically reduced, way more than the reduction that we have now in NIH by the current administration. It was reduced because steps that we took, like the price controls on medicines, they killed almost the biotech industry. The biotech industry is experiencing historic lows of available funding, venture funding to them, is experienced historical lows of multiples, and that also is translated also into the pharma industry. The multiples are very, very low right now. That means way less capital for research, for biomedical research. And this is what happened in the last 4 years.
Right.
And at the same time, in China, they had pro-innovation policies. They were encouraging investments. The government was protecting the intellectual property of those people that they were investing in biotech. The government in China modernized their FDA and made expedite approvals of the Chinese innovation. And guess what? We are now at a stage that most of the applications are coming from China than from the US for new medicines. Very different dynamic than what we had 4 years ago.
So we're speaking at a moment where the full impact of potential US tariffs on the pharmaceutical industry is unclear. But can I ask how you're planning amid that uncertainty for their possible impact? What have you had to do knowing that that is a possibility?
The first thing that I try to do is to engage with all the decision makers so that I can influence the decision. I'm not just making a scenario planning of it can happen this or that and what am I going to do. The most important of my time right now, it is mostly allocated in trying to influence the environment. I speak to people. I speak to the president. I speak to the Congress. When I say the Congress, I'm talking to both the Republican and the Democratic side of the Congress, in the Senate and in the House, trying to explain what is the best way forward. I'm talking to foreign governments that could also be affected. And I'm talking to, the administration in general. So we try to make sure that everybody understands the consequences of every single step that we may take. And I'm offering solutions. I try to understand. Yes?
You articulated this belief in engagement when we met in Davos in January. You'd just come from the president's inauguration at the time, and you said, you want to be in the room and engaging with everybody in this administration, from the president to his health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and you believed you could have a productive conversation with all of them. What do you think your engagement is getting results from what you've seen in those first 3 months?
Look, pharmaceuticals have been exempted from tariffs so far, right? I think that's a good positive thing. And I think the engagement that we have trying to explain the complexity of the issues played a role into that. I don't say that we are out of the woods and tariffs will never come to pharmaceuticals. They may come. But what I'm saying, it is better to be in a situation that tariffs are not applied to pharma now and may come, rather than tariffs are applied to pharma and we try to get rid of them.
In this moment of what seems like high volatility, high uncertainty, I know you're not unfamiliar with those periods, but short term, how much harder has it become to make plans? And longer term, how do you keep your people focused on the big strategic priorities?
But it's becoming way more challenging in the short term. And the long term was always a challenge, because in our industry, long term is not the same like tech. For tech, long term is 2-3 years. For our industry, long term, it is 10-15 years. It's very different, the perspective that we have. So, and that by itself, it's very challenging to plan. Investments that we do now will give us revenues in 15 years from now. Now imagine if we don't know even in the short term what will be. It's very, very challenging. I try to, first of all, engage with our people, and they need to embrace uncertainty. We need to be agile. We cannot just stick to a plan and say that we are dogmatic about it and we won't change it no matter what. You can't do that in this uncertainty. You need to be nimble and agile, and you need to try to navigate.
How close do you think we are to the next great breakthrough in fighting cancer?
I think we are probably closer than any other therapeutic area. I think the science, there's breaking science in multiple things of like Alzheimer's and neuroscience and schizophrenia, but still we are far away from meaningful solutions over there. In cancer, I think science has matured enough to be able to see every month something new and positive, every quarter something important, and every year something that really changes the game.
All right, it's good to end on an optimistic note. Albert, thank you very much for joining us at the World Economy Summit.
It is great honor. I wish you the best success for the summit.